Hey, how's it going? This is Kevin Hockett, and you're watching my Drum Basics video series. In this episode, we're talking about drum kit placement. We're going to be talking about how to set the heights of all the drums. We're going to be talking about where you need to set the drums, general philosophies, general guidelines, rules that you can follow to help get your setup the way you want it. Also, we're going to be talking about the two most basic kinds of drum kits, the 4-piece and the 5-piece. Are you ready? Here we go! The best basic philosophy that I've ever heard about setting up your drum set is this: avoid extremes. Try to apply the principles of our grip. Keep it relaxed. Keep it natural. If you're putting your body under constant stress and constant strain, it's only going to result in injuries, and you don't want to be injured. So does that mean that when we get our drums set up the way we want, that it's going to feel like we're floating on a cloud, or that it's like a relaxing day at the spa? No. The drums are obviously a very physical instrument. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to move. So let's talk about setting up your drum set in a way that prevents you from getting injuries. Let's set up, in other words, a healthy relationship with your instrument. The first thing to do is set your throne and pedal positions. Some people like to sit right in the center of the throne, and some people like to sit toward the front or more towards the back. Any position is fine as long as you're comfortable long term, like say 1 to 2 hours. Set the height of your throne so that your hips are slightly higher than your knees. In general, aim for sitting a little higher rather than too low. And please make sure that you use good posture sitting on your throne. People have a tendency to hunch over when they don't have back support. Avoid the hunch! Good posture gives you the best range of motion and is the number one thing you can do to stay healthy playing drums. Keep your back straight and roll your shoulders back and down. Now that you're sitting on your throne with good posture, good posture, the next thing to do is set your pedal positions. Look at where your feet naturally and comfortably rest on the floor. Try to place your pedals in this natural position. Notice that the pedals are close to the same vertical height. When you clamp your pedal on the bass drum, make sure that the front end of the bass drum is slightly elevated off of the ground. You can extend the legs further to make this adjustment. Let's go ahead and place the snare drum next. Since we're playing matched grip, the snare works best at a flat angle at a height that's usually best placed between your hips and your belly button. Your arms should be at a comfortable downward slope from the shoulder to the tips of the sticks. Your floor tom should be at the same height as your snare drum, and you can angle it slightly towards you to help avoid hitting the rims. Both the snare drum and floor tom can be placed right up to your bass drum. Just leave enough room for your leg to move freely. Your rack toms should be high enough that they don't hit the bass drum when you're playing them, but also close enough to the snare drum and the floor tom that you won't need to reach too far to play them. Aim for a flatter angle on your toms rather than a steeper angle. The classic 4-piece kit is a snare drum, bass drum, 1 rack tom, and a floor tom. The classic 5-piece kit includes an additional rack/mounted tom. Remember that when we're talking about the size of a drum kit, only the drums are counted as the pieces, not the cymbals. And finally, the cymbal placement. The height of your hi-hats should be such that you can play comfortably with your arms crossed without banging your sticks or hands together while you're playing. A little extra room is better than not enough. The crash cymbal needs to be high enough that it can move freely without hitting anything, but also not so high that you have to extend your shoulder above a horizontal position, or like a 90-degree angle. trying to crush your dreams of being a rock star, but you probably don't need to reach above your head to play the cymbals. The angles of the crashes, splashes, chinas, etc. should be mostly flat. Lastly, the ride cymbal should be placed so that you don't have to overextend your arm and shoulder. If you hold your arm in the playing position for around 30 seconds to a minute and you start to feel pain or tension, make an adjustment and try again. On a 4-piece kit, the ride cymbal can sit comfortably between your rack tom and your floor tom. On a 5-piece kit, the ride gets pushed a little further out. The ride cymbals can be angled towards you or slightly flatter. Just make sure that it doesn't collide with anything while you're playing it. Some people prefer a higher ride cymbal, and some people prefer a lower ride cymbal. The two most important points here are, number 1, avoid extremes, and number 2, if you feel discomfort, don't be afraid to experiment with adjustments. You should now have a great starting point for setting up a drum set that works for you and that is comfortable. Our 2 points again, avoid extremes, and 2, don't be afraid to experiment with different adjustments. So you may have heard this before, and I've heard it a million times, but I'll say it too. Set the drums up to you. Don't set yourself up to the drums. In other words, don't try to adapt to a setup that isn't comfortable or isn't working for you. So, I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.